An epic battle is playing out in Washington. No, it's not between the president and a politician. Instead, Trump is going toe-to-toe with Kellyanne Conway's husband. The two trading shots on Twitter, with George Conway unleashing attacks like these, claiming the president is mentally unstable. Americans should be thinking seriously now about Trump's mental condition and psychological state, including and especially the media, Congress, and the vice president and cabinet. And congratulations, you just guaranteed that millions of more people are going to learn about narcissistic personality disorder and malignant narcissism. Great job. Trump, of course, counterpunching big time by saying George is jealous of his wife and calling him a, quote, stone-cold loser and husband from hell. The president also serving up this beatdown earlier.
I don't know him. He's a whack job. There's no question about it, but I really don't know him. I think he's doing a tremendous disservice to a wonderful wife. Kellyanne is a wonderful woman, and I call him Mr. Kellyanne. The fact is that he's doing a tremendous disservice to a wife and family. She's a wonderful woman.
And Kellyanne Conway is responding to it all by defending Trump, saying, quote, he left it alone for months out of respect for me. But you think he shouldn't respond when somebody, a non-medical professional, accuses him of having a mental disorder? You think he should just take that sitting down? Okay, well, this happened all the time in the Bush White House.
Yeah.
Right, Dana?
Yeah, remember those days? Remember those days?
What do you make of this? I don't think we've ever seen anything like this before.
When it first started, if you go way back, right, this has been going on for a while.
Right.
So George Conway, not shy about tweeting, but it's ramped up over time. At first, it was just more like, oh, really? Well, see Section 824 of the Penal Code, whatever. But then it ramped up, and it's often questions about the president's mental health. And there was a profile of Kellyanne Conway and her husband. I think it was in the Washington Post, maybe like sort of last summer. And I remember sending her a note. I thought this was the funnest couple because they could have these arguments. They allowed the reporter to come in their home. As she's cooking, she starts singing to overcome anything that he's saying. And it looked like a fun family atmosphere where you might have disagreements, but you don't let it interfere. And now I feel like I hope it is. I hope
not
that's
so
still
much
true.
fun any
well,
longer.
I hope that it is not bothering them. I do think that they have school-age children. All of them can read. The internet lives forever. And I'm sure everyone's aware of that. I'm not telling anyone something they don't know. But I have to say, if Peter had ever done this to me...
Ooh.
Well, that's the thing. Peter has never, ever done anything like this to me. So I feel for them, although I don't know if they really care. I don't know. It's the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
You haven't seen Peter's I Hate Jasper website? It's like amazing.
Greg, this is like a scene from Veep, but more entertaining.
I'm going to tell you why this story is the greatest story that we've ever covered for me, because I love television. I grew up on sitcoms. This is the greatest sitcom ever. George Conway is basically Newman from Seinfeld, right? And so if Trump is basically Seinfeld and Kellyanne's Elaine, but you got to have a Newman. Or I was thinking maybe he's like Mr. Roper from Three's Company, and Trump is Jack Tripper, and because he's always like staring at him with his beady eyes. He's always mad at him. And this whole thing has got amazing characters, but we have to be honest about what America wants to know. What is it like at home now? Is it just some kind of knockdown, drag-out fight that goes on to the night, or is their love life so insane that it doesn't matter? This is none of my business, right? But I'm forced to think about them having sex because, and that's something wrong with that. But this is what happens in the Trump presidency. We have a crazy sitcom. We have, like, domestic fights publicly. This is the most transparent administration ever because there's no such thing as behind closed doors.
It's like when the president says, you know, when I leave office, you guys are going to have nothing to write about.
Exactly.
And that's true, isn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like this is an episode of Billions because the two villains, you know, it's like the husband and the boss. I do feel like it is not about you to both of them. And I feel like poor Kellyanne Conway is just trying to do her job.
Can I do that again?
Yes. Oh, I forgot I was going to sit on my hands today. And I just feel
Beta
really...
should do.
Yes. Yes, and I just feel really bad for her. And I feel like both of them, like she's the one that gets up every morning and goes to work and then has to now be caught between a rock and a hard place. Her husband could have demonstrated in this moment to me as a learning moment, as a teaching opportunity for the rest of the country, as like, oh, look, even though we disagree on everything, I love my wife, I support her, this is great. Like he could have been.
Like Carville and Madeline.
Right.
Yes.
Are you really sitting on your hand?
Yes, I did a couple times ago too.
Yeah, because remember, dude, you mocked her for using her.
So
hand.
now she's doing
everyone.
half a Beto.
I started it. He's half of it.
You can do beta with one hand tied behind your back.
Yeah.
I have sympathy, Juan, because of mom texts.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
we put this behind us, and we all have our issues. You have sons who are Republicans. Do you have any insight into the situation?
Well, I like Billions because I think it's exactly what you said, Em. I think it's the woman between two powerful men. I guess in Billions it's Wendy Rhodes between Chuck Rhodes and Bobby Axelrod, the hedge fund guy. But here we have a situation where I think lots of people were talking about the president's mental health this weekend when he was going after John McCain. Now, even have Republicans defending John McCain, Cindy McCain saying it sparked all kinds of nasty emails to her. So lots of people, because he went on a Twitter storm. So George Conway comes out and he's talking. What was interesting about this is George Conway puts up literal diagnoses, material from real doctors about narcissistic disorder, antisocial behavior, citing the president. And that leads then to what I felt for Kellyanne, who's someone I've known for many years, because then she gets on TV on Monday and people are saying, do you agree with your husband? And she says, well, no, because, of course, she works for the president. She can't disagree with the guy who's signing her paycheck. But she went on to say that. I'm sorry?
The taxpayers sign our paycheck.
She works for President Trump. And then,
He works for her.
Maybe. President Trump
They
went on
work
to
for
say
us.
he doesn't know George Conway. And then George Conway fired back and said, of course I know you, and I had to not take a job from you, and you were putting down Jeff Sessions, you were putting down John Bolton's mustache. I said, it's crazy. I mean, it is. It's literally, as Greg said, like something out of TV land. And I do think they might be setting themselves up to be the next Carville and Madeline.
Yeah, it's a reality. Maybe it's a reality show.
Yeah, I have a friend who thinks it's all planned.
Do you think they're going to parlay this into a reality show afterwards for cash?
Gosh, I don't. I guess we'll see what happens. I don't think so.
I wouldn't watch it.
Life is really good
uncomfortable.
if this is a problem. This is entertainment pretending to be a problem. And I think this is where Trump's kind of experience with TV comes in, is that he looks around and goes, we could have a little fun here. And I don't think he takes it as seriously as anybody does. I think it's on us not to take it seriously because we've been through this now for over 2 years.
Did you see people saying that that President Trump thinks it's an insult to be called by your wife's name, right? So, but this has happened to Peter a lot because I have a public profile and we go places and they're like, oh, Mr. Perino. And he just says, yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Mr.
yes,
Kellyanne.
okay.
Yeah, but I'm going to
nailed
tell
it
you,
with
that's
the
no joke.
nickname.
That's no joke what's going on in terms of his putting down John McCain, a dead man. People really are
Okay,
upset
Juan,
about
we're having fun with this.
No, I'm just telling you, you're going to have fun.
This is a
No,
tabloid
but that's
topic.
the point.
Jeez.
That's the point.
We can talk
you can
about
have
that
fun,
another time.
but I'm just telling
But there's
you,
no
real
going back with
people
that, Juan.
think that there's a real psychological issue
No
with
going
this
back
president.
with that stuff. That stuff is so deep and ingrained that it's going to be. People have these feuds that go beyond the grave, and it's not. It's. Most historical figures have these kind of problems, and it's at this point complaining about Trump's personality is like complaining about the weather.
Yeah, we're 2 years in. We know. At this point, there's a lot of storms gathering. All right.
President Trump fired back one day after the House voted 420-0 to make the findings of the Mueller report public, insisting there should not even be a report. Here now is Ken Starr, former independent counsel under President Clinton, a Fox News contributor and author of Contempt, a memoir of the Clinton investigation. Good to see you tonight. I want to start with what it looks like when people start to wrap things up. You pass things on to Robert Ray, whom I've had on my daytime show. And so I just want to know, if you're doing things like the lead prosecutor, Andrew Weissman, going on to other things, that was announced this week. But oppositionally, you're putting resources in to fund this probe by Mueller until September. So what does it look like? What did those things mean to you?
Well, it means there's still wrap-up work to be done. Apparently, he is clearly in a phase-down mode, but it takes a while. It takes weeks and perhaps even months to bring everything to conclusion, get all the sentencing done, and so forth. And, of course, he owes this confidential report to the Attorney General. So there's work to do.
So is there any doubt that we're going to get to see that? I mean, did anybody listen to what, at the confirmation hearing, what William Barr said, our new AG, he's been an AG before, so he knows people are going to be listening and writing down his words. And he said, look, I have a good relationship with Robert Mueller. Reportedly, that caught some people in the White House by surprise. And he was sincere about how long they'd known each other and that he fully intended to release it according to rules and regulations. So why 420 trying to get to see it if he already said he'd do it?
Well, it may be because folks are starting to read the regulations, and the regulations bind Bill Barr until he says, I'm doing away with these regulations. The regulations, as you know, Harris, require the special counsel to just present a, quote, confidential report. That's a key word, isn't it? To the Attorney General. Then under the regulations, and these are regulations that have been in effect for 20 years, and they go back to the Clinton years, those regulations then call upon the Attorney General to notify the Congress with an explanation of certain actions that he took. The regulations under which Bob Mueller was appointed do not contemplate a report to Congress. So it's sort of, oh my goodness, we have apparently just not been aware here at the House of Representatives that there really is no genuine reporting requirement. Now, we'll see. The Attorney General is very able. He's got a lot of discretion.
All right. I want to get to this real quickly. March 5th, John Brennan said Mueller's last indictments could come Friday, which that was 2 weeks ago. Let's watch.
I wouldn't be surprised if, for example, this week on Friday, not knowing anything about it, but Friday is the day that the grand jury indictments come down. And also this Friday is better than next Friday because next Friday is the 15th of March, which is the Ides of March. And I don't think Robert Mueller will want to have that dramatic flair of the Ides of March when he is going to be delivering what I think are going to be his indictments, the final indictments, as well as the report that he gives to the Attorney General.
Woo! 10 days ago, former director CIA reading some tea leaves that I must have put in my teapot. Because, I mean, how could he get it so wrong?
Well, it's speculation, and he obviously does not have the gift of prophecy. His prophecy did not come true. And I really do think it doesn't serve the country, the American people, well when people sit around, and I try to avoid making these kinds of, frankly, idle predictions. It maybe gets viewership interested, but it's not a public service.
Interesting. Ken Starr, thank you for your perspective and expertise on this. Good to see you tonight.
Good to see you, Harris.